Today I'm going to show you how to flatten a slab with hand tools. And I'm going to be using a scrub plane and a combination of other planes to flatten the backside. I've already done the front and I filled some of the voids with epoxy, so now I'm going to be flattening the back and getting it ready for legs. So this is what the slab looked like when I first got it. It was about 11 feet long and it was pretty heavy. I let it dry for about another 3 to 6 months, and by the time I glued it up, it had been almost a year. So this is the top, and you can see it's pretty flat. And I have some of these voids filled with a penetrating epoxy. I'm gonna probably have to go over these a couple more times. That one looks like it filled in, and I actually screwed up gluing this slab together, and basically it didn't come together in the center, and I was kind of well into the glue up. It was good enough that I decided not to redo it, but I basically, hid my mistake with this inlay strip. So hopefully it turns out well in the final design. I'm still debating possibly adding another strip, or maybe 3, I'm not sure. But anyway, this side is flattened, so I'm going to be working on the other side. So this is the other side, and I've already done a little bit of flattening. And actually what I did here with these knots is I just took a power carver, basically an angle grinder with a disc on it, and just took these knots down so that I'm not having to go through these with the hand plane. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scribe a line that's going to be parallel to this top, and then that way I have an equal thickness all the way around, and I'm going to work to that line and flatten this bottom. So I took my marking gauge, and this is the thinnest part of the slab right here. So I'm going to transfer this line. I'm also going to do the sides all the way around. You can see that's quite a bit of material that I'm going to have to remove, but I'm going to show you how this scrub plane makes this quite a bit easier than if you were to use a regular plane. In front of my bench, I have this movable stop that I clamp down, and then this way my slab butts up against this and it can't move. So you can make a scrub plane with just a regular plane. A lot of people will modify an existing plane and make the mouth wider. I didn't do that. I just used my regular number 5 Stanley. I just have an extra plane iron, and you can see here I've basically ground it down so that it has this sharper, more aggressive biting edge, so I can hog off a lot more material. And then on the other side, you can see this basically will control how much material I'm removing. So if you have this chip breaker too far down, it's going to be taking too big of bites. And I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So since this mechanism, this controls how far the blade protrudes when I spin that thumb wheel on the back. So if you have this too far backward, basically your plane iron, it's going to be sticking out way too far in the throat. Mine's about 2-3 millimeters of protrusion, and I like those results. So this is how the plane is set up. So it's definitely set a lot more aggressive than a typical plane iron. So you can see those shavings are quite a bit thicker than a standard plane shaving, and because of that, and because you're taking basically a shallower cut, you're able to remove a lot more material a lot more quick. So I'm going to be doing the bulk of the material removal with this plane iron, and then I'll be smoothing it with a regular one. Even though I have my lines I'm planing to, what I can do is take 2 sticks, and this way I can see where the high spots are and if there's any twist in the board that I need to take out of. So I'll take this one and put it in the front, and this one in the back. But then, now it's a little hard to see, but that left side is lower, and that's consistent with the lines I'm drawing because we're planing everything down to that lower left-hand side. And there's a bunch more material we need to take off on the right. And we can see that there's that high spot right there. And basically we're planing everything down to, that's the narrowest corner. So periodically, I'll just check my progress with these winding sticks. Over on this side too, we can see we're still shy of that line. And obviously you can see the gouges left by the scrub plane, which we will even out with a regular hand plane once we get close enough. I'm getting pretty close here to start smoothing it with the regular hand plane, and you can see that this is definitely quite a workout, but I have it almost flat. I'm going to check it here with the winding sticks, and I've been planing for about half an hour. So really it's not as much work as you would think. So that looks pretty good. And then basically I'm just going to start using this stick to check for high spots. I can see here there's a high spot, this is the lowest spot, and I'm going to start working this with a regular plane and just checking it periodically with a straight edge. Also, you can see those knots are almost level with the surface now, and this has quite a bit of tear out, but I'm not going to worry about that just yet. It's going to get better with the smoothing plane, and I'll still be doing quite a bit of sanding. And for this bottom side, I'm not going to get it as perfect as the top side because it's not really going to be visible. Another crucial thing is to have a well-sharpened plane. So before I start doing anything, I'm going to sharpen up my number 4 hand plane and make sure that it is all dialed in. And you can hear that sound. That's the sound of a well-tuned plane. The grain on this side of the slab is really pretty weird, and there's some types of grain that just won't plane well. But one workaround to just minimize the amount of tear out is study the grain. So this grain right here tears out when I plane in this direction. So what I can do is I can approach it with these circular type strokes. And then this grain is actually the opposite. So I have to go like this. So it's kind of changing all over the place on this side, especially, but I can minimize. I can also have a really slight plane setting, a sharp plane, and use circular motions. I'm getting really close, and you can see this thing is looking a lot flatter. There's still a high spot in the middle, but overall it is looking pretty good. And you can see how much material I've removed over here. It's quite a bit. But I'm pretty happy with the results thus far, and I'm just gonna keep continuing on. And it looks like there's just maybe 1 millimeter or 2 to remove, and this thing should be pretty flat. So this is pretty flat, probably 1 millimeter or so from being perfect. And instead of adding a C channel, I'm gonna be adding crossbars out of wood, and that will keep this table nice and flat. What I'm gonna do is use this piece of scrap walnut I have, and you can see it's thinnest down there. So I'm gonna first rip this on the table saw to the width, to the thinnest width that it is. And then I'm gonna laminate 2 pieces together, and I'm gonna use 2 of those, one on each side of the slab, and this will prevent any cupping that I get from it. So let's do that. And while I'm waiting for my pieces to dry, I'm going to be routing a channel on both sides. And rather than trying to get the channel to the perfect width that first time, what I'm going to do is go slightly smaller than my glued up pieces, and then I'll use the planer to get those pieces to the perfect size to fit nice and snug. And also I have this big void right here. So I'm just gonna kill 2 birds with 1 stone and just put that channel right where this void is. That way I don't need to fill it with epoxy or anything. Way bigger than it needs to be to keep the slab straight, but it's all right. Go for the maximalist approach. And I think it's gonna look actually pretty cool as an accent. So it'll be a little walnut accent. Now I have my channels cut, so I'm pretty excited to start milling down the pieces and get them perfectly fit into here. So I'm gonna go over to the planer and basically just take off a hair and fit it until it fits just right. I have these rails planed down, so now I'm gonna trim off the ends and start sanding this thing. So this is the top of the table, and I think it turned out pretty awesome for just using hand tools. And the back of it looks just as good. So if you want to see the full table build, stay tuned. I'm going to be doing some really cool legs and a floating tabletop idea. So if you want to see the whole build, stay tuned for the next series. Thanks for watching.